Hey Summoners, make sure that you've subscribed to the Mobalytics YouTube channel and hit that bell button. That way you're always up to date and part of our notification squad. Hey Summoners, it's your Challenger coach Adam Moriarty Isles here with our newest Mobalytics tier list video for patch 9.13. So let's get started. If you're wondering where Qiyana is on our list, we have a rule that we don't place new champions on our list initially, but in my opinion, she seems like a decent champion that's probably going to feed the first time you see her. She, like most assassin releases, will probably end up with a bruiser build or something like that ends up being better than her assassin one. Also, I'm excited to announce that this Wednesday at 12 PM PST at the Mobalytics Twitch channel, I will be streaming live to answer every single YouTube comment, no exceptions. So make sure to drop a comment before then and tune in to see my response on stream. For patch notes, we have a cost reduction for Randuin's Omen to help out tanks versus the heavy crit ADC meta. This still won't help much versus Conqueror though, so don't expect tanks to make a big comeback yet in the top lane. Essence Reaver got a cost increase by 100, which is a nerf, but the recipe changed to include BS Sword over Pickaxe, which is actually kind of a buff. Rod of Ages got a cost reduction by 100, which is nice, it's just that Roa champions in general are a bit too slow for this meta. Karma, who is currently playable in all 5 roles, got her non-empowered E-shield duration reduced from 2.5 to 1.5 seconds, which is going to hit her hard. She is going to end up as S- or A+, so stay tuned to our update video next week to find out which one it is for sure. For the top lane patch notes, we have a pointless buff to Ornn's QAD ratio by 0.1. Odd buff Riot, but okay. Alawi, on the other hand, got some really nice changes, which include her W doing extra damage to towers, as well as her ult giving her an extra tentacle. These changes, along with some of the other quality of life ones, should be able to bring her back to B tier. Poor Pyke though, he got Exodia'd and completely obliterated in the solo lanes after losing his wave clear and the nerf to the tap damage on his Q. Starting off in top lane, we have Garen, Karma, Urgot, Yorick Mori, Mordekaiser, Tom, why hasn't my base movement speed been nerfed yet, Kench, and new addition Jax in S tier. Jax is my pick of the patch and has been borderline S tier for a while now, due to his ability to solo carry games with his great 1v1 and split push potential. More recently though, he remains one of the few champions capable of beating Mordekaiser/TK in a side lane, and since both of these champions are incredibly popular, Jax's priority has increased. A quick tip when playing him is to remember that he's incredibly good at taking neutral camps, so whenever you push your lane up, look to take Krugs or Gromp, it'll help your mid game farming a lot. As for A tier, we have Neeko moving up from B tier. Just think of her as another AP ranged bully that auto wins the laning phase, kind of like Kennen, but takes Glacial Augment plus GLP to be even more annoying. You'll also notice Pyke got sent straight to the dumpster after his nerfs. With Riot actively posting that they do not want Pyke to solo lane, we believe that this set of nerfs will finally put a nail in the coffin that is mid lane or top lane Pyke. I'm honestly impressed at how quickly they nerf him every single time he gets in the spotlight as a carry instead of a support. It's almost like a ban on site policy for solo lane Pyke, but instead it's a nerf on site whenever it's meta. Personally, I hope that bot lane Sona gets hit with a nerf on site policy just like Pyke, cause her gameplay is pretty toxic. But I guess since she's a mute, the automated system might not pick her up, who knows. Moving down to B tier, we sent both Shen and Rengar to the graveyard because both of them just have horrific matchups during this meta. For the High-ELO top lane list, we have Aurelia, Aatrox, Riven, and new additions Kennen/Rumble to S tier. Kennen, even post-nerfs to his Emax style, is still seeing incredibly high priority in both Challenger and Pro play. He's just far too consistent, being able to win lane or at worst go even, and then scales into a huge teamfight monster. Rumble, just like Kennen, is someone who excels at beating melee champions, has great lane priority, and then transitions into destroying teamfights with his ultimate. This seems to be a trend with most AP top laners where they tend to bully lane, and then since they're mages, they have amazing teamfight potential. Even though they might be worse at something like split pushing, situationally compared to bruisers, it doesn't matter cause champs like Rumble just instant clear the wave and then go roam anyways. Design wise, the AP carry power creep in top lane definitely needs to be addressed sometime soon. Moving on to A tier, we have a lot of changes. Karma would have been S tier this patch without her nerfs, but when they came through, it just lands her down in A tier. Mordekaiser is still extremely strong, but some of his more popular counter picks like GP or Jax are more popular and they're kind of better at them in High-ELO, so after his hotfix, we are placing him in A tier. Poppy also made it to A tier as a counter pick to many high mobility solo laners like Aurelia or Riven, so her matchups are great at the moment. We also sent Sylas / Pyke and Shen to the graveyard because they suck right now, while Akali barely maintains B tier. The jungle patch notes will see nerfs to Sejuani's health growth by 10 and the second cast of her W's damage from 6% max HP to 5.25. This means that if you are a meta slave and you're bored of Sejuani, then unfortunately these nerfs are not enough to make you not pick her. Udyr received a buff to his late game where he can level his abilities 6 times instead of 5 once he hits level 16. This should make him feel way better during that stage of the game, even if he's going to lose anyways. Shifting over to the jungle list, in S tier we have Vi, Amumu, Volibear, Nunu, and the Spider Queen Elise as Flares' pick of the patch, who is our newest analyst here at Mobalytics. Flares is a challenger jungle main, who one time when he beat me in solo queue, asked me in all chat afterwards if he could help out with the jungle list. Thinking he was being kinda cheeky, I said, sure man, and then he actually did add me. We then had a fairly long conversation about the jungle role in the current meta, and I felt like his knowledge was extremely high on the subject, so we decided to give him a chance as the jungle expert for the tier list. He says that with Elise, your timetable to close out the game is within 25 minutes by using your amazing level 3 gank potential. You should utilize Elise's dive power by going in on laners under tower and then dropping aggro with your repel. He also suggests that you should pick up tier 1 boots and blue smite on your first back. Your first completed item should be Runic Echoes followed by the completion of Sork boots. Then you should go Morellonomicon, Zhonya's, and situationally Deathcap, Void Staff, or Liandry's. Now don't be intimidated by the champion's complexity. Elise is the pick if you want to see yourself hard climbing in solo queue. We don't have too many changes to the jungle list itself, but we do have the Man Bear Phoenix Turtle Udyr coming into A tier. Though they only really impact his late game, average game times in gold and below are still quite long, so he will still get some use out of them. That being said, my recommendation for this patch is Sejuani. Despite her nerf, she's still going to be a really big threat in the jungle. She is particularly strong due to all of the melee solo laners being played, allowing her to stack her passive extremely quickly even after she misses her W. This makes it incredibly difficult to survive her ganks or even skirmish versus her because her E is just going to apply too quickly to too many different people. Playing Sejuani with double melee solo laners is going to hide one of her normal weaknesses of being a mediocre skirmisher. So if you ever see that classic team comp in solo queue of Riven top plus Yasuo mid and you're out of dodges, try picking Sejuani. In the High-ELO Jungle list, we have Sejuani, Nunu, Rengar, Olaf, and Elise forming our S tier. Elise moved up from A tier to S tier due to her pressure and tower dive abilities being able to quickly snowball games, especially off of aggressive solo lane picks like Aurelia, Aatrox, Zed, or Talon, who are very popular right now. Brolaf is the king of the jungle for the first 25 minutes of the game. Ever since his Warriors build became popular, his dominance over the early game is unmatched while having winning matchups into the other S tier champions like Sejuani or Elise. At the moment, many challenger jungle mains are abusing his early pressure to snowball and end games extremely quickly. Since the average game times are lower in this bracket, he doesn't really run into the issues of having a bad late game too often. The only downside to this champion is that if he falls behind, the Olaf player will likely be spamming FF go next, while the rest of his team accuses them of win trading. On to A tier, we will see some new faces with Trundle and Skarner moving up due to their priority increasing as counter picks, while Kayn and Ivern swap places because one of them is edgy, popular, has the freshest skins, and receives buffs to help them in the current meta, while the other is Ivern. Going into the mid patch notes, we have some quality of life changes for Diana where her Q now travels slightly faster and reveals Fog of War after it lands for a brief time. It's helpful for checking brushes now, but overall won't change her placement on our list. Syndra got a buff to her mana scaling by 10 per level, which is nice, but extra mana isn't really going to push her to S tier or anything like that. Sylas got some base number buffs on his HP growth, attack damage, and his W Kingslayer, but none of them are even close to being big enough even if combined to drag him out of the trash can. Now we have the mid lane tier list, with Lux, Malzahar, Karma, Vel'Koz, Katarina, and Ahri, who is Peckinwolf's pick of the patch. He says that you should take Glacial Augment, free boots, cookies, CDR, and then secondary you should take Taste of Blood plus item CDR or Ultimate Hunter, based off your preference. You should max Q, then E, and then W, and look to support your team with your item slows. Stay grouped with your team and then use them to set up picks as you excel a lot more while your team's around, as you might not have the damage to kill people on your own. Item path wise, you should go GLP, Stopwatch, Twin Shadows, Zhonya's, and then Morello's, Deathcap, or Void depending on your situation. Since my favorite Lux counter pick, Pyke, got obliterated by the nerfs, making him fall from S tier to the dumpster, my new suggestion for beating AFK wave clear control mages is Katarina. Due to her high mobility, she can easily dodge skill shots and all-in someone once she gets her Gunblade power spike for a full rotation kill. She has two major build paths. One is used versus squishy champions, which involves Electrocute, Gunblade, and regular AP items, and the other is Gunblade with Conqueror into Death's Dance, which is used versus tankier ones. The other changes to the list are removing the monkey Wukong from B tier and dropping Mordekaiser from S tier to A tier. Though he's incredibly strong, his kit isn't amazing at dealing with control mages, and he mostly excels at dealing with melee champions. We suspect that after the hotfixes went through and people get more used to playing against him, mid laners will stop picking Yasuo or other melee champs into him. I will admit, watching a Yasuo get sent to the Shadow Realm is pretty funny though. They instantly try and think about how to use the minions to try and kite the Mordekaiser, trying to get their Yasuo brains all, tick-tocking, and then they realize that all the minions are gone and now they're doomed. The mid lane high-elo list will see a lot of changes compared to the normal one. In S tier, we have Rumble, Talon, and Katarina for pretty much the same reasons that she got moved up on the normal list. It's just that at this level, people are executing her much better. In A tier, we have TF making a comeback after a long time. This is all thanks to the Klepto Triforce style that's been very popular even in competitive play. As the #1 Twisted Fate in NA, I will put my stamp of approval for this build and say that it is better than the AP one. Another pick that's seeing both competitive and solo queue play is Nico with Hextech GLP and Glacial Augment. She's very safe in lane, can get lane priority, easy picks, and her teamfight presence with the flank is devastating due to her ultimate. I am a bit tired of always having to say that champions use Glacial Augment plus Hextech GLP in these videos, so if you have a better nickname for this combo, I am begging you leave it in the comment section. For the rest of the changes, I'll do them in a bit of a rapid fire mode, so keep up. Pobelter from A to B tier cause his laning sucks, Time Lord from A to B tier for the same reason, Akali from S to B tier because of her nerfs, LeBlanc from A to B tier cause her matchups got worse, Shurima Emperor from A to B tier cause he doesn't get time to scale, and Pyke to the graveyard cause he got hard countered by Riot, Sylas because he just got nerfed way too hard too many times, and finally Xerath and Veigar to the graveyard because both of them really suck in the early game. Bot lane patch notes will see some nerfs to Sivir's base mana on W Ricochet by 15 and also some very slight base stat adjustments. Overall, she's still going to be S tier. Tristana receives some base stat increases on her attack growth, base mana, and mana regen, as well as a buff to her early game rocket jump by 10. These are pretty nice buffs, but just like the rest of the patch, most of these are pretty minor. Moving down to bot lane, in S tier we have Jinx, Sivir, and Hewitt's pick of the patch, Caitlyn. Caitlyn has been on the rise in competitive play after her buff and new build. She received 2 extra AD, which isn't terribly much, but does help in the early game. For her build, instead of buying Infinity Edge and 2 Zeal items, she now goes for Infinity Edge, Essence Reaver, and then a Zeal item for her core build. This gives her more sieging potential with the extra mana and CDR, and more AD, which results in better poke and burst damage. This build really synergizes with Caitlyn well, so give it a shot, we recommend it. For the actual list itself, you'll notice no real changes because the nerfs to Sivir were pretty laughable and likely not even harsh enough to drop her from S tier, because right now, she's just really good in the current meta, as she excels with both melee champions and against melee champions. Recently, Sneaky debuted a new build for Ashe, who was my recommendation for this patch. He rushed Essence Reaver into Trinity Force, followed by either a Zeal item like PD or Infinity Edge. This build gives Ashe unparalleled utility with how often Arrow and her W are up, along with incredible kiting due to the Phage. This build is pretty good in solo queue if you're looking to try and force fights on your own, cause your frontline just forgot to engage 5v3 for some reason. Also, if you're like me and you miss Arrow half the time, this build helps cause you can ping your low CD ultimate right after you miss to reassure your team it was just a zoning ultimate. As for my off-meta recommendation, I'm going to pick Lux AP carry. Pick it if you have a support with lockdown/burst like Nautilus or Zyra, as it makes it easy to one rotation someone at 6. My other recommendation will be if you have a duo you like, but lose a lot and you're worried they're going to leave you, try Sona Tahm Kench. It's slightly harder than the Taric version, meaning it's still brain dead easy to win with. Bot lane High-ELO is going to have massive changes compared to last patch in S tier. We have Jinx, Sivir, Kai'Sa, Draven, and Caitlyn swapped with Ezreal as she moved to S tier while Ezreal moved down to A tier. Caitlyn has become better as she can lane bully a lot of the popular short-ranged AD carries like Kai'Sa and Xayah, especially paired with poke-oriented enchanters like Karma or Lux. Ezreal dropped out of S tier though, mostly due to how consistently inconsistent he can be. Sometimes when you play him or get one on your team, you look like SKT Bang. The next game, you'll look like the beginning of the split 100 Thieves Bang. This is because the other S tier champions besides Draven are all incredibly strong in the late game and do really well with enchanters, meaning they get to late game a lot faster, and if Ezreal does happen to fall behind or lose lane, he's going to just get outscaled even quicker. And that about wraps up our huge massive changes to the high-elo bot lane list. Jumping into the support patch notes, we have nerfed to Sona's AP ratios on her Q, Hymn of Valor, and her E, Song of Celerity. This nerf was intended to hurt her bot lane carry performance, especially in competitive play, but let's be real, most Sona supports go a bunch of AP anyways. Lastly, we have the support list. In S tier, we have Lux, Sona, Janna, and Will's pick of the patch, Nautilus. He says that it's because of his ability to single-handedly win the lane through one well-timed or interesting hitbox on his Q. He is great into all of the other S tier pick supports and can counter even the strongest of AD carries if played correctly. He highly advises you to pick up this champion if you want to win lane, win the game, and tilt the enemy because of his usefulness whether he's ahead or behind. As for the rest of the list, the nerfs to Karma's E shield duration hit support the hardest, dropping her from S tier to A tier. She definitely did need some nerfs as she was overperforming in 3 roles, and even as of last patch, people were playing her as a bot lane carry too. It's just a bit sad that though her intended role is support, it was hit hardest by the nerfs as she relies more heavily on the shield compared to the other carry builds. C'est la vie. Or that's just how life is for champions like Karma or Lulu who get played in other roles and then get nerfed in the support role instead. The only other change to the normal list would be moving Pyke from A tier to B tier due to his nerfs. Now, if you're looking for any unconventional support picks, I highly recommend not picking Teemo and instead try out Veigar support as he's both better and won't get you banned. The final phase of the tier list is here, with the high-elo support list. In S tier we have Yuumi, Rakan, Karma, and Lux. Now you might be wondering why Karma is S tier in the high-elo list but not on the normal one. It's mostly because if you're able to end games quicker like in high-elo, then the shield duration being reduced isn't going to impact her as much because it's more of a late game nerf. You'll notice that Lux is now in her rightful place in S tier. She has been one of the top supports for a while now and should have been added earlier. Honestly, her shield is just way too big for something that can be put on the whole team. It is a bit strange to me though that Karma gets nerfed 1 week after hitting S tier even though she was mediocre and borderline terrible for like a year, but Lux remains untouched for a very long time now. Thankfully, there's a post on Reddit almost every day now telling me what Lux's pick rate and win rate are while asking for her to be nerfed. I'm sure that won't get annoying and it'll definitely help get her nerfed. For the rest of the list, we have Soraka moving to B tier, Sona post-nerfs from S to A tier, Janna from S to A tier as she's just a worse version of Lux at the moment, Thresh from S to A tier because he can't really deal with enchanters scaling if he falls behind and he has trouble hitting all of these high mobility champions in the meta. We also have Fiddle from A to B and Bard from A to B because they're having trouble impacting the game without trolling while also being squishy / easy to snowball on. Thanks again for watching our tier list video for patch 9.13. Feel free to ask us any questions in the comment section below for us to answer in the next Q&A, and as always, be sure to check out mobalytics.gg.